KindaSound Radio. We're tuning in for change.
Good morning and welcome to KindaSound Radio with me, Stella Grace, and the lovely Anne Kelly. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Hello. It's an honor to be here. I'm very excited about today. Thank you.
Me too. I can't wait to hear more from Anne on her amazing connection with the ancient teachings for a modern world, and I am living Theosophy under her name. Welcome to The Gifts Within Adversity with me, Stella Grace. We're on every fortnight at 11. Our show is replayed tomorrow at the same time, and it's available as a podcast from the following Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, and of course the KindaSound website. So you can catch up and hear future shows or listen back to previous shows. I'm so excited to have you here today, Anne. And this is something that you are so passionate about, isn't it? So you're going to tell us more about what you do and your student, as you describe yourself as a student of the teachings, don't you? Which I love for you to apply them and tell us a bit more about those and how you apply them in your daily life.
That's the most important part.
Absolutely.
It would be an honor to do that. I wanted to say also, though, I did radio for years, so I love being back on live radio.
Yay.
This is fantastic because in the world of today where we whip out our cell phones and we're all doing our thing, having a live radio broadcast, which I did for 30 years, is so much fun. It feels really good. We even had a few technical difficulties as normal, and we're on. And again, this is fantastic. Thank you, KindaSound, for what you're doing for the world and for everyone. It's really refreshing. So yes, did you want to start off with living Theosophy? Or?
Yeah, well, I'd love to. That's really a good point, actually, your background. I mean, you've had such a lot of experience in radio and TV.
I did some television as well.
And you've just done so much. So I love that. This is really fitting for you, isn't it, to come back to, like you say, we're connecting with the world.
Yes.
That's what really this is about. So let's start with your background, Anne, because I know you've got absolutely oodles of experience to share.
Well, I started, my very first job was singing telegrams. I cannot sing, but that did not stop me. I loved it because it was play and it was fun. And then I went on to I was a tour guide at Universal Studios for years in Hollywood. And then I did stand-up comedy for 5 minutes. And then I went off I was a tour guide at Hearst Castle for the state of California. Then I started in radio, rock radio mostly. So it'd be Beatles, Doors, Stones, Zeppelin, Who, Jimi Hendrix, Megadeth, and Metallica and all that stuff. I loved it. And it came with a lifestyle of course, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So I really did enjoy it. And it was back in the day when we had to wait for the records to finish and we were answering the phones. You were live, you put on a long record if you needed to use the loo. It was a big deal. It was a totally different world. And now the internet, which has absolutely changed the world of radio, newspaper, magazines, and television, it's totally different. That's why this is such a fantastic idea, what you're doing here. So it was in California that I did that, in Los Angeles for a little bit, in Bakersfield for most of it, San Luis Obispo as well, where I'm from. And then near the end there, because of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it became then just drugs. Really, the sex and rock and roll dropped off, and it was alcohol, Jack Daniels, and opiates and all that. So it was quite a journey. So I lost my job, which I think we're going to touch on.
Yeah.
But at the end of that, coming back around, I was able to return to the airwaves completely sober, and a life beyond my wildest dreams was waiting for me then. And I never would have thought that I lived the life I live today. I was a convicted felon. I was looking at prison, and I literally crashed and burned so hard. But for a while there, you can sustain that. But if you're like me, then it will catch up with you.
Wow, what an incredible journey. And so you've seen so much and had so many different experiences, and I'm really grateful that you're here to share, and thank you so much for sharing, because I know you share so passionately and so authentically, and I really love that about you, and it's very inspiring to others, because I was talking on another show about how when we are in the frequency of authenticity, we can then reflect that hopefully sometimes in another, and then they can feel inspired to
my God, absolutely.
So I love that.
To take the sting out of it. It's so shameful. Back when I got sober, which is 2002 actually, so it's almost 22 years, it's 2024. That's insane. Back when I got sober, though, going to rehab and jail and stuff, it wasn't as cool as it is now. People are not afraid really to mention it. Like Amy Winehouse versus rehab, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. People were talking about rehab now in a different way because we're able to connect with the internet.
Yeah.
It makes distant shores one beautiful beach, and we can see into the lives of others. But then you had one radio station, one newspaper, one television station. And when you crashed and burned, it was shameful. And I was horrified that I wasn't going to be able to pull out or come out of it. I was worried I would be judged. I'd never have a life. But now you see people on TikTok talking about their time in prison. They're doing these full-time jobs, doing the full circle. I think it's so imperative to share your story because people can maybe identify something about themselves in you. And if you're not ashamed to be not living that way, even when I was out there, I was just telling you that I wasn't ashamed to be laying in the gutter with my pants down around my ankles and my hair on fire with a bottle of Jack Daniels laying next to me. Why would I be ashamed of not doing that anymore? Yeah. So that's
so powerful.
It's true. It's true.
Really, really
so
is.
I'm very upfront about it. I'm not ashamed of who I was. It made me who I am today. And sometimes I need to remember that because I'll think of, oh my God, it's so embarrassing, horrifying. Oh, I did that stupid thing and da-da-da-da. All of those things made me who I am today. Every single horrifying one of them.
100%. And that is so the basis of the foundation of this show. So it's so relevant. So thank you, because the gifts within adversity is really about the fact that we all go through traumas, we all go through adversity, big and small. And, it's not so much about the specific instance of the trauma, although we can certainly talk about those, but it's about the fact that as humans, I feel we're so it's deeper for me than just growing, making you stronger. It's bigger and deeper than that for me. It's about, I feel that we're, it can really shape us, as you're saying. We're really designed to evolve in a way from going into those really deep inward lows of despair, of destruction, of trauma, of, with the brokenness that we feel in those hellish periods in life that we all go through. And some of us, maybe more so than others. I kind of feel that we chose our life lessons and our journey to grow from. So, we look at some of the really horrendous things that happen. And of course, we wouldn't necessarily choose to think with a conscious human mind that we would choose that. Of course, we wouldn't choose to go through, awful abuse and awful experiences. We wouldn't necessarily choose that. But I believe as a soul, we kind of sign up to this journey and for our ultimate evolution, for our ultimate healing. So for me, the traumas, whilst we won't necessarily want to repeat them or, sort of wish them upon anyone else, we understand that we grow from them and this kind of cyclical nature, and that trauma comes back around again as well, doesn't it, in different ways. And
it does,
so we have our tools. So the gifts within adversity is really about inspiring people and looking at how my guests such as yourself, and you've been incredibly inspirational, inspire others and touch other people's lives to build on the toolboxes that we need to grow from our traumas and our difficult periods.
That is very well said, honey. Thank you. If you are watching this, I want to let you know, if you're listening to this, watching this, that pain is the usher of wisdom if you allow it to. So all of these painful experiences, one of the things that I learned in the ancient teachings, really, and again, this isn't any particular branch, it is the commonality of all the world's religions, sciences, and philosophies. So one of them talks, it's cyclical. Everything is cyclical, okay? So you have, when things are good, you get to rest, and when things are difficult, you are learning. And the cycle never stops. I used to think that once I went through all of this hellish stuff, that I would then be all of a sudden in some kind of perfect life and there wouldn't be any challenges. There will always be challenges, but they will not last forever. They won't. And there will always be good times, peaceful times, calm times where you get a chance to rest. It's just like day and night. It is that guaranteed, that absolute. Everything is cyclical. Breath goes in, breath goes out. Sun goes up, it appears, sun goes down. Tides go in, tides go out. When things are difficult, you're learning. You can learn from these things. Or when it comes back and you're like, that's great, love this, so wonderful. It's not going to stay that way. And that's nothing ominous. It just means that you get a rest, you get a breathe. So pain, psychological pain. Some people will argue with me on this. They'll say, oh, these children that are suffering. If you know the big picture, which is life is but a day. This isn't our only time. That is my understanding. And when you look at it like that, this is a chapter in a book. And it's not the end of your story. So when you see these things happen to good and innocent people. There's more to the story. It could be the people that are in their lives that need to learn something because of this pain. Pain is the usher of wisdom if we allow it. That's something that I have to remember every day, because there will still be crappy days and there'll be good days. But I always remember it's not going to last. It's cyclical.
Yeah, because and that's so powerful. And I think it's a great teaching to remember, and so applicable to, like you say, everyday life, anything and everything that comes up. And I think it's just a nice reminder, because actually the human condition, if you like, the human mind, we do forget quite quickly, don't we? The amnesia of being human is quite a thing, isn't it? So, of course, this is where tools like the teachings come in. But perhaps we'll have one of your songs, your first choice of song. Would you tell us a little bit about why you chose Amazing?
Well, I have to say, it's such an honor when she said, would you choose 4 songs? And I thought, the responsibility. I'm going to have to pick some really big ones that mean something. Also, being on a show where we get to play music is fantastic.
It's really cool, isn't it?
This is, okay, Amazing is by a band called Aerosmith. And Aerosmith was my absolute favorite band. That's why I got into radio in the first place. I had 3 Aerosmith tattoos at one time. I was in love with Steven Tyler, and I thought he was going to be in love with me. I've met him a couple times. He's seen my tattoos, and we're not married. He did say I looked like his ex-wife, though. So anyway, this song, which came out in 1993, I believe it's off the Get a Grip album, is about his own journey and their own journey. And again, when I got sober back in the day, I thought, when they got sober, way before me, I thought, how boring. What am I going to do with my life? And if he's sober, we go backstage. What are they going to be doing? There's not going to be grabbing big things of cocaine and throwing them over your head like they used to. How boring. But this is a song about his particular journey. He has since relapsed and gone back, and now he's sober again. A lot of them do, and that's normal. Just do the best that you can. It's a very real disease or affliction, whatever you want to call it, that happens to all walks of life. And it doesn't have to be just alcohol. It could be a person. It can be gambling. It can be food. And he's talking about in this song, it's so beautiful. It's amazing when you finally see the light, and about changing his life. And it's absolutely the truth. I love this song. Ladies and gentlemen, Aerosmith, Amazing, off Get a Grip. Take it away.
KindaSound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back to KindaSound Radio with me, Stella Grace, and the beautiful Anne Kelly.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Likewise, we are so grateful to have you on the Gifts Within Adversity. And this is absolutely such a fitting topic to, you would just, so right as a guest to choose. And I love your beautiful energy and your authenticity, as we were saying, and how you're happy to share. And I just think that's so powerful and inspirational for people to hear. One of the things I write about is that in some way or another, we are all touched by trauma of some level, some severity, some kind. And so you are no stranger to trauma and adversity, but the highs as well. So would you like to share a little bit more about your highs and lows, perhaps, or your journey as you wish to share?
Absolutely. And I just want to say, whatever you see in me, I'm a reflection of you. So that's a beautiful way. It's true. Whatever you see, it's you. That's what people say, or what they witness, what they type. It's a reflection of what's going on inside of them. So if you see that beauty, that's what's inside you. I love that. That's always a big validation. It's true. For my journey, how do I sum it up in a nutshell? I did go out on the recovery circuit, and I would tell my story all the time to help hopefully inspire others, because I always think, my crash and burn is the worst. But there are people right now, right this moment, that are figuring, how are they going to get through this day, this hour, without throwing back that Jack Daniels or taking that handful of pills or whatever. It is so real, it's rampant, and it's deadly, it's fatal, and it's crushing. And each one of us, as an active addict, affects like 20 people directly, like the family and people immediately, people you work with, your brothers and sisters, whatever. But it's just destruction. So you're not a bad person, but we do bad things when we're in addiction. So if I could go back and start to tell you how it was for me, I was the one who got the drunkest at the high school parties. I would go to blackout. Other people would be like, oh, I'm having a wine cooler. It's so great. But I go all the way. And I thought, that's just because I'm a stud and I can drink everybody under the table. But anyway, going forward into the radio world, where you're always at concerts announcing bands, there's Jack Daniels, there's cocaine, there's all that. And that was like the thing. And I thought, that's great. But a few times I go back to the station, and there'd be, they could tell I was drinking, and I'd be slurring my words, and there'd be dead air. And I thought, oh, it's just so cool, rock and roll lifestyle. There's nothing cool about it. But let's go forward to when I'm now working at a radio station in Bakersfield. There's a partner of mine that we were coworkers, but we ended up dating, and a little baby was on the way. So I stopped all drugs and alcohol, and here was this beautiful child. So I didn't drink anything through the pregnancy. He was a big baby. He was born on The Baby Story. It's on YouTube if you want to watch the birth, which is a show like you have over here in England, which is one every minute. But anyway, the pregnancy came along. He's 10 pounds, gorgeous baby, healthy, thank God, the love of my life. Here he is. And they give me a big bottle of Vicodin because it was a big birth. So I'm thinking, I'm fine now. I can have a few Vicodin. So anyway, long story short, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 10, 10 became 12, 12 became I wasn't able to refill it. So I was then now having to order it from Mexico, and the UPS guy became my drug dealer. I was trying to maintain some kind of normality. I'm working, I've got this little guy, and I'm thinking, no, I've got it under control. It's fine. At least I'm not drinking. So then I would drink to be able to stop the pills. And then it just became this horrific machine of absolute and complete destruction with a beautiful little one that was counting on me. And this is such a huge story. I'm going to try to get right through it. Go 3 years down the line, and I am not able to hold it together. I've now been fired from this radio station, fired from that radio station. I'm working at another one, still showing up blasted or not coming in at all, or even calling him sick. And this is horrific. Driving to Mexico to get 8 more pills. Mexico would be like driving to the end of Scotland from here. We're in the southwest of the UK, just to get a few pills to get through the day. There's no way I had control of this. It had control of me. And I ended up losing that job. I ended up losing my son, then goes to live with his father. And I don't want to live without my son. So because I was drinking and he was in the house and I was inebriated, I got a charge that was called, and this is horrific, it is called willful cruelty to a child with intent to cause severe bodily harm and or death. And it's a felony. And I was absolutely devastated. I would never hurt my child. But if he needed to go to the hospital, if he poured some boiling water on him or was in the bathtub, I couldn't take him to the hospital. So I was guilty of that charge. A few days later, I get another one of those because my ex comes over and he's angry with me. He calls the police. I'm drunk in the house. I have 2 of them now, 2 felonies. So this is what happens when you're drinking and using and you can't keep it under control. You lose the job, you lose the relationships, and then you have the charges. And then it's jails, institutions, and death is what they say. And that's what was coming. So I ended up, have to fast forward through this. I ended up in rehab. And oh God, there's so much here. But I ended up in rehab, and all I wanted to do was get my son back. So for 90 days, I did everything they said. All I cared about was just getting Alex back. I just wanted Alex back. He's my whole life. And then they said, you need to meet your probation officer. He's a felony probation officer. And he came to me and he says, you're not going to stay here. You don't get to stay here. You're going to go to this religious retreat. You're not going to see your kid for a year. And immediately I started to hear the buzz of, I can't live without Alex. You can't tell me what to do, and I just started to absolutely careen into complete self-destruction. His talking just became like the Snoopy parents, want. And I went out, and that was June 2nd, 2002. And I drank 151 to die. And I was going to walk out into traffic. I didn't want to live anymore. I had no coping skills. I was just doing what they told me, but I wasn't living it. And if I wasn't going to be able to see my son, there was no reason to live. So they found me behind some, I don't know, restaurant on the east side of town. And I was just somehow, the rehab comes and collects me. My probation officer comes, and I thought I was going straight to prison. And I thought, okay, well, how come I'm not dead? Why am I not dead? And he took off his badge and he took off his bulletproof vest and he took off his gun. And he said, I have to apologize to you, but listen to me, Anne. He goes, I thought you were just trying to get one by me. But listen, you can't fall on your own knife. You can't destroy your life if things don't go your way. I will let you stay here and see your son, but you will fax me when you go to the bathroom. You will have to call me every moment. You have to go to meetings day and night, and I'm going to make your life hell, but you can stay here so you can see Alex, but you must listen to me. And I will never forget his words, because what I'm going to say next really applies. He said, someday something will happen with him and you won't be able to self-destruct. And immediately I thought, oh, he'll hurt himself on his bike and I'll be at the hospital. It'll be really dramatic. And I'll be able to, and what he said came to pass. And he said, you can't fall on your own knife. You must do this for you, not to get your son back, not for any other reason. You got to do it for you. And we're really good friends now, actually, me and my probation officer. Anyway, I ended up on June 3rd, 2002, surrendering finally, realizing I can't do this on my own. I went to rehab. I did everything that they said, but this time I applied it. And I didn't do it because I was trying to control anything. I let go and I just surrendered. And I had to, I had absolutely fines and charges and a DUI, and I had no money, and I was homeless and destitute, but I rode my bicycle around town and I earned my way back into society. I was able to get a job back at the radio station. I had to work my way up just like I did at the beginning. And I was able to get the job back. I then became very active on the recovery circuit. I wanted to give back because there are other people out there that are hurting like that. And then I sat on the board of directors at the rehab I went to, and I was even signing their checks. This was such a huge thing. There's no way they would ever trust me for something like that. It was weird. Life kept giving back this beautiful, everything to be grateful for. The most important thing is the relationship with my baby, with my son, who was 3, who used to say to me when he would see me come into the house and I would have a bag of alcohol, it'd be in a bag, but the bottle would be in there. He would say, "Mama, no more crying. Mama, no more crying." And I would lay down and just cry. It was horrific. This little guy, the damage that I did between 0 and 3, I cannot undo, but I could give him back his mother. We have an amazing relationship. He understands. And I don't know if he's forgiven me or not. I'm pretty sure he has, but we have an incredible relationship, and he now sees, he can see people around him destructing because of drugs and alcohol. And sometimes he's saying, "Mama, you did that." That's like, it's a big thing to be able to come out the other side. Many people I went to rehab with are dead or back out there. I have 22 years and 22 years this in 2024. So I'm at 21 and some change of a completely different life. I have been now able to meet an amazing man. I have a beautiful, married for 15 years. The country of the United Kingdom allowed me to immigrate with my charges, which have been reduced, expunged, dismissed, which is incredible. But I had to tell him the whole story up at the immigration offices. They allowed me to come here and be a productive member of society. I am so, so very grateful for every moment of every day. And I don't know how, if we can get to this part, but when I moved over here with Alex, his father, who was not really very involved, kind of, there was no question that he would come here and go there for visits, and that would be, I'd never leave if he wasn't coming. And I was like 7 or 8 years sober at the time, and so I thought, this is fine. He'll come here, go to school, he'll go back there. And then this huge custody battle began to rage. Massive custody battle. And I was thinking, I don't want to destroy his life. We can't be fighting like this. If he can live here, maybe become dual citizen, he'll go back and forth. He lived here for a year, and then I could see every time he'd come back from a visit, he was full of the venom and vinegar and horror of our battle, which is a very selfish thing. We were behaving extremely selfishly. We should do what's right for the child in his heart. He will always need that other parent. I created a child with this man. I shouldn't have been doing this. I didn't realize that at the time. I thought I was doing the right thing for him. But I realized in 2011, when this was happening, I could see he was being destroyed by what we were doing. And I realized one of us was going to have to let go, but I couldn't live without him. I thought, I can't do that. I can't live without my son. So I sat there and I said, show me what to do. And it was, you need to let go, send it back, and just be the best parent you can with him and pull your head out of your butt. So I had to put him on a plane and send him back. And it was like a small death. It was huge. It was so huge. And it literally ground me to a pulp. I could not function, but remember what Mr. Pruitt said, my probation officer: one day something will happen and you can't turn on your own knife. So I had to feel this pain, this longing, this distance, these mistakes that I've made. I thought this was the right thing. I still think this is the right thing. Alex has said to me he wishes that he lived here, could have done it differently. But anyway, through that pain, I realized I needed to do right by my son. That was my biggest priority, and not to self-destruct, to numb the pain, which I wanted to do, but I did not do. And I'm so grateful I didn't. I did not. And so through that pain, though, I will tell you that psychological pain on top of being able to feel it for the first time in my life was literally when I found these teachings in a book that was called Yogi Philosophy and Oriental Occultism. Now, that advanced course, and it sounds so convoluted, but I just cracked open this book and I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I'm just absolutely devastated. What am I doing across the world from everybody what am I doing? And I would go out along the Dart in Totnes where we lived. And I read this book and I'm thinking, whatever. And it literally was an introduction to these ancient teachings. And I started to apply them. And it was through that massive pain that I learned how to live, actually. And that's how I found the teachings. Yeah.
just a phenomenal story.
I don't know, so fast.
And I'm sure that's the, you know, like you said, the summary, because yeah, just wow, what a journey, and how you had to go through that grief. I mean, I'm sure there are a number of griefs, but your son, you knowing that the best thing to do was to let him go,
my God.
and that whole grief, and then to not drink on top of that. What a huge journey, and to find this path instead. And I'll talk a little bit after your next song choice about a real sort of fork in the road that I experienced as well. And it sounds very fascinating. Your sort of it's a real fork in the road moment, isn't it, where you feel like, you know, it could go one way or it could go the other. What am I going to do here? Actually, I'm going to do the choice for me. Yeah. And I love that really powerful element that you spoke about, is how your probation officer introduced it to you, that it had to be for you. And I think that is the only way forward, isn't it, in terms of it actually solidifying. It has to be for your own essence, and then as a knock-on for your son. And so just the most phenomenal journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's huge, and I know that will be so inspirational for so many people. Very much linking to your second song choice, Sorrow. Is this around the sort of that death that you experienced of losing your son?
I don't know how to describe what that felt like, but I remember it was like when the plane took off, just my heart would go with it, be ripped out. It was so painful, but I had done it. We have to remember our role in all of the things that we do. We'd love to blame other people. I am responsible for 99.99999% of the pain in my life. A lot of it is self-induced. So yes, living without him was not the way I was going to live. There's no way I could live without him. We are very, very close now. But yeah, it was very, very difficult, but it was numbing. I even had times that I could not remember weeks. I even had like nerve shooting pain. I couldn't lift things. It was an intense pain that literally led to, well, pain is the usher of wisdom, is it not? So this particular song is just a beautiful Lisa Gerard. If you don't know who she is, you need to. Is that Sorrow that we're going into?
We're going in Sorrow,
yeah.
Absolutely.
It's an ethereal sound of this life on earth in the teachings of Theosophy, or the perennial philosophy, which we'll talk about, is a very painful thing. We call it Mialba, which is any man-inhabited planet, is a place of great suffering. So there is suffering here, and it's massive. It is happening now. And this song encapsulates suffering and sorrow beautifully. So it's just a really haunting melody that I'd like to share with you.
Thank you so much. Pain. Thank you, Django, for sharing that one with us now.
KindaSound, tuning in for change.
Welcome back to KindaSound Radio with me, Stella Grace, on the Gifts Within Adversity with the lovely Anne Kelly. And we've been hearing such a heartfelt journey of extreme highs and lows, really, haven't we? And in particular, the huge sorrow that you went through with your son, but other areas as well. And do you want to just, is there anything else you'd like to say on that?
I do. If you are going through this, the best thing you can do for your children, it doesn't matter what monetary things you give them, you become peaceful parents with a person you procreated with. That is our responsibility. Without, you just remove your ego and you work with them, because they are half of your child. They will never not love that person, and you mated with them. I mated with Alex's father. I created a child. And when all of this came to a close, I wrote to him and I said, we don't have to be best friends, but let's look at the Rolling Stones. They suit up and show up, and they get along just for the sake of it, right? They get along to do the show. Let's stand together, and we can still have our issues, but not around Alex. We need to work together as a unified front. Give the gift of loving parents to your children. That's what they need, and that's what they deserve.
Absolutely. And that's amazing that you've been able to find that place and that peace, and most importantly, have a really lovely relationship and a close relationship with your son now. It's just so phenomenal for you, looking back through everything you've been through and to be here now. And I can feel your gratitude. Like, it's so electric. And
he'll be 25. He's coming up on 25, and he's just a compassionate, beautiful soul. And he learned about compassion through that. He's very resilient. They can see that. And how could I teach my son about compassion unless I became it? And I remember thinking about that, and hopefully in his mind, when he becomes a father and all that, he'll understand, hopefully.
Yeah, amazing. Something you said earlier really fascinated me, and also one of my own sort of questions of my own inquiry and the work I'm interested in and writing in on trauma is these real sort of forks in the road that we have, and these real instances in life where we're not quite sure how we're going to get up in the morning, you know, and somehow the resilience of the human spirit does, you know, there's days when you just don't know how you have gotten through and then grown beyond, and I know some of us choose not to. So you know, for me, I grew up the child of an alcoholic. I was loved, you know, I was unconditionally loved. My mum was beautiful, and she had, you know, she certainly had love for me, but unfortunately her own addiction, alcoholism, meant that she could not care for me in the way that I needed. So there was lots of issues around the home, abuse in the home, and things I witnessed and saw and experienced that no child should. And for me, I remember my real fork in the road was, so I found her, actually she had drowned in the bath, and I found her, and it was about 3 months of, you know, quite extreme drinking myself.
No.
But then a real fork in the road appeared, and it was so evident for me and vivid of, you can go that way, you can go the same way and carry on drinking, and something, you know, your life will be like that, something similar down that road, or you can just do something different. And but the key thing is that I knew it had to be for me.
It's true.
I had to immerse myself in, really at that time it was career. So quite early I went off on a season with, you know, one of these like camp groups in Normandy, and did like rock climbing instructing, and
oh my gosh,
it was all, you know, it was kind on the face of it was quite fun. It was, you know, maybe what you do. I think I was 19 then, and but it was so much deeper than that in terms of, it was about getting out of Brixham, the small town that we live in. It was about not drinking anymore, not going down the same road. And so for me, that real resilience came from sort of just my soul knowing that I wanted to do more than that, and you know, that there was more to do on this lifetime than that. But it was very clear to me, and I guess would you resonate, you had those moments where you could see, you know, I can go this way, or I can go the other.
Absolutely. You're staring right at death, literally staring at death. I mean, it was so close, just death and complete oblivion. Or you can find the strength to actually stand up, and it's horrifying. That psychological pain, and it is horrific. It really is truly hell on earth. And that's the one thing I would say about when people don't understand, why do you drink if you know it's going to do that? Why do you do that? You'd step over your dying child's body to get another drink if you were like me. And if you don't have any idea what alcohol addiction or any addiction feels like, I always tell people it feels like watch a Hollywood movie about being possessed. That's exactly what it's like, because you're in there somewhere, but a darker force actually is dominant and controlling you. And it's sometimes we even talk about how these entities, these lower astral entities, will inhabit bodies of people who have vacated their body. They live out of their heads, out of their minds. That's actually what algol means, where the word alcohol comes from, algol, which literally means the ghoul, to inhabit the body that is not being alive. So it's out of your head. And that's, if you look at the spiritual consequences of alcohol, it's true, but it's like possession. So if you have the strength to stand up and literally lift yourself up and face the absolute destruction, a massive destruction of the pain that you caused for so many people, and just begin to not add to that pile, but every day you take a couple pieces off, and it's not going to be super easy, but I guarantee you on the other side, there is a life beyond your wildest dreams, and you are free. You are free, and you still have bad days, but you don't ever have bad days like that. I am so grateful. Like I said, I was looking at 3 years in prison as a convicted felon. Come on, now look, I live in this beautiful home by the sea in England, in a very loving world, and my son and I are fine. I have a happy marriage. I am grateful. I am grateful. Colossally grateful. But yes, the fork in the road, there's so many of them that happen in life, and it doesn't always have to be addiction. It can be anything else. A lot of the times it's love or money or something like that, especially relationships. Holy God, nothing like a heartbreak. That is so huge when you're broken up with someone and they're still alive. It's not death. You can't even mourn it. But the torment that takes, life on planet Earth is very, very painful. It doesn't have to be. You can avoid unnecessary suffering. Some suffering is necessary for us to learn, but there's a lot of unnecessary suffering. We make it very difficult for ourselves. But yes, you have the strength, everything you need is already inside of you. Absolutely. It is there.
Yeah.
And it's not outside of yourself. It's not outside of you.
Absolutely. And I think it's those moments that get us through the fork in the road. But then we have the teachings as well, don't we?
Yes,
That you
yes.
passionately share.
I do.
So would you like to tell us more
Of
about those
course.
a bit more specifically?
I would love to. And how do I talk about these teachings that are older than time itself? Every religion, every philosophy is based on these teachings. So what I would say, if you're watching this, listening to this, look for the commonalities in Buddha, Christ, Krishna, Lao Tzu, any of them. Look at the commonalities. They all were saying the same thing. These teachers have come to talk about these teachings. So when I found this book, Advanced Course in Oriental Occultism and Yogi Philosophy, it's just so convoluted when I say that, but that was the pointing. That actually was a signpost that pointed towards Theosophy. I was like, what's Theosophy? It said, it was talking about this book called Light on the Path, Theosophy. And I thought, everything in this book seems to resonate. I love it. What is this stuff? So I did the research, and it was like my own little Da Vinci Code. I wanted to find out what this is. And so Theos means gods. Sophia means wisdom. This just means wisdom of the gods. And these are ancient. They don't belong to anybody, not the Theosophical Society, not any individual, not any organization. It belongs to mankind, and they're the instructions for living. They're also called the perennial philosophy, which means the thread doctrine that runs through all of these teachings. It remains the same. It evolves with the time that it's in, but it's all the same. You go Plato, Pythagoras, you look at Jakob Bohm, you look at all of these people who have come, Isaac Newton, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky wrote down a ton of these at the end of the 1800s, but she's not the only one. And by her own admission, she is a scribe. If you look into these teachings, it talks about the reincarnation. We talk about the law of karma, which is equilibrium. It is not punishment, but balance. And if we could learn how to, what we do, it's not some kind of retribution or punishment. It literally means if you do this, this is what happens. It is balance. It talks about that, the reincarnation understanding that this is not the only time here, that we are eternal beings. We're in eternity now as much as we will ever be. So all of that is covered, everything. So if you're into the near-death experiences, some of the people watching this video or listening would love to hear the comforting things that come through in the near-death experiences, where they talk about unconditional love. They talk about the love. They talk about just this place of home and understanding. And this, I don't want to go back to Earth. You're not going to make me go back there. I can't do that. But they can also see and understand every act that they've ever caused another human being to feel, whether it be something good or something horrible. You see it from their perspective. Near-death experiences are absolutely, when they come back, if you cross-reference those, they are validations of these teachings. So you don't have to have a near-death experience to understand these wisdoms. And so I take it just little piece by piece, and I talk about different things every day. That's some of the videos that you see online. Yeah. So I call it living Theosophy, because that's what I would say to someone if I was to pass away. I'd say, take a look at these teachings, live them, become them. And I guarantee you, because I applied them and they helped me in such a huge way, that no one is the leader. There's no big boss that is going to be taking money from you or anything. You don't have to pay anything for them. I do weekly book studies on unfolding consciousness, exploring the living universe and the intelligent powers in nature and humans. I do weekly book studies on YouTube. Go online. You don't have to look at my stuff, but just go out there and look for it yourself. And this talks about everything like ghosts. Look at the paranormal channels. Everybody's into ghosts. Everybody's into that, but they never go past the scare. They just wanted the thrill, and they're like, oh, why don't we take a look at, these are explained the Mayavirupa, the astral shells, the memories, what are the mediums talking to when they're doing these readings? People are interested in this. And also, from reincarnation to ghosts to near-death experiences, and then the science. You can go into the science and the understanding of occult science. And the word occult, don't freak out. It doesn't mean ominous. It can mean ominous, and the churches would love for you to believe that, because the dark arts and some black magic would be in the occult. Occult simply means out of view, currently out of view. That's all it means. And these occult sciences, this occult philosophy, these esoteric teachings, esoteric not commonly known, exoteric commonly known, these are the teachings of the mystery schools. And they're here and available if you just want to go online and look. You have access to all the libraries in the world. Take a look at Theosophy, perennial philosophy, the consciousness, the beautiful consciousness of who we are, where we are, why we are. I am telling you, during that time of great pain and sorrow, when I picked up this book, I literally found something that worked and helped me. And I have to say, I can't Now, as a radio personality, I don't want to do voiceovers for anything else. I will only really work for these teachings. I wish to give them a voice, to get them up off the dusty shelf so they can be available for everyone. So it is called Theosophy, but there's also the Theosophical Society. In the late 1800s, they began meeting so they would, have times they could study and talk about these things. That was then. This is now. You don't need to belong to a Theosophical Society. You don't have to do anything. Just go online and do your own research. It's amazing. They're there, and they can, every single solitary thing that happens in your life, there's something there for you, little tools to use. And the New Age movement was cherry picked from these teachings. Absolutely cherry picked. They were. So when you see, they'll just touch on it, but then sometimes people get blinded by their own light. They become gurus and they want to be important in this lifetime. None of that. Find the teachings, put them into application. They're there. And I will, as long as I live, I will serve them to get them out to the world, because the more people have these, the more it will help you. And I believe that will help ease the unnecessary suffering of all beings on our planet.
I love that.
It's true.
It's so beautiful that you share them so selflessly and
I try to.
passionately, because like you say, that it's the generic, like the universal support that they offer. It's universal, isn't it? And it's access to all. It's easily accessible. It's another tool in any given moment. There's so many tools within it, isn't there?
Yes. So like in daily life, a lot of people think these were only applicable 2,000 years ago or 1,600 years ago or whatever, during different times. For God's sakes, like your mortgage goes up, you can't pay it. Your spouse is cheating on you. You lost your wallet. Your son has been diagnosed with a tumor. Every single solitary thing in life, there are ways to understand the bigger picture. You get your head around it. I will tell you, the studies on death, oh my God, I am not afraid of death at all. Even the grief counseling, I wish that I could help. I thought about going into hospice, because if I could tell them literally what I understand and what they can learn to understand for themselves, I am not afraid of death at all. The method of death, I prefer, we always want to say not too painful, but the death itself ending, the explanation, there's so much comfort and there's so much calm and there's peace. And I cannot say enough about them. I cannot.
Amazing. And very clearly going back to your point you made, it's not one religion.
No.
It's not one cult. It's not like that, is it? You're passionately sharing to be of service to humanity. The gems, the wisdom, the gold. And going back to some of our conversations about pain and the alchemy process, we're through those deep lows, through those deep traumas, when we alchemize to the gold of the wisdom. You pull out the wisdom, which is the alchemy process, isn't it? It's such a process. But these teachings are the gold, aren't they?
I love that she uses the word alchemize. That is exactly what we're doing. You're taking because the alchemists would tell the church that's what they're doing. They're making gold for money. What they're doing is they're transmutating from the lower self to the higher self, to the golden self, the truth that's within all of us. The divine spark is in everybody, and it has nothing to do with alchemists and gold. That is an analogy, if you will. But the way you talk about this is all about transmutation. This is about self-transformation, because that's what we're here to do. A lot of people want to say, if those people weren't like that, and there's all this, conspiracy theory here, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. What we can do is you can actually take care of what you're doing, how you react, how you think. You can change, you can evolve and become a better human being. And by doing that, that's what they attribute that quote to Gandhi. If you want to change the world, and there's all these beautiful, empathetic souls that are coming in saying, I want to change the world. Well, you got to start first with you. And what are you doing here? So I found the more I applied these teachings, like veganism just came in one day. I'm like, I can't build my life, my body from the suffering of another being. It just happened. I couldn't do it. So I changed that. There's a lot of different things, not only the sobriety, thank God. I think about what it would have been like if I would have continued like that. I wouldn't be alive, that's for sure. But what kind of a life, what kind of a person, what kind of a mother would I have been? So through these, I want to call them ancient wisdoms, ancient teaching. That's why I try to make it as palatable as possible. Because if you say Theosophy, they're like, oh, then it's Helena Blavatsky and assistant. Now, I know it doesn't belong to anyone. They're free. You can earn them. You can learn them, but you can't buy them, and you can't go pay somebody to help you, become enlightened. The work is done on you, and you apply it through your everyday life, how you react. If you can overcome your lower self, that's what all this is about. That's true alchemy. That's it. It's true.
It's just stunning. And that real alchemy process because it's the human element, isn't it? You say the lower self, that's the very human element, the survival instinct, vices, you know, and that's a part of being human, isn't it? So we're equally not denying that, are we? We're just, like you say, transmuting it.
Well, that your ego, you do need your ego to function. You have to have your personality this lifetime. But it's the greed and the selfishness and the laziness and the anger and all of that. All of these things, those are really beautifully explained traits of the lower self, which is in us, and the higher self, which would be the virtues. You can kind of say that, compassion and understanding and patience and love, unconditional love. We're working to transmute that. So you can learn your brute nature is there, that very primal brute nature, but overcoming it. It's that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And so thank you so much for coming. I mean, I could talk to you all day. I really could.
Thank you.
Just gorgeous. Thank you. So just quickly, where can people find you? If you're interested in the teachings and hearing a bit more about your journey and the teachings, where are you?
Again, the teachings are all online. You don't even get them. You don't need to get them from me. I don't even send my name online. I just call it Living Theosophy, or that's across all the social media platforms. Living Theosophy on Facebook, Instagram. I am Living Theosophy, but also Twitter and anywhere else. But also Unfolding Consciousness. I can't say enough about that text. It's a 1,000-page text, just came out in 2022. No association with any organization. They're out there. So my name again is Ann Kelly. I'm saying it now because that's what you put me on as, but I really do Living Theosophy because I think we should live these teachings and become them. And I am so grateful to have been here with you. I love you. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anne. And thank you for listening. And I will look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time on KindaSound at 11 on the Friday. Much love.